The fourth studio album from the Irish singer-songwriter, producer and director Roisin Murphy sees her return with her usual brand of hypnotic, theatrical and colourful style of avant-garde experimental electronic pop that has been the constant source of praise from critics who have indulged in her works over the last decade. It's often been a wonder why Murphy has never hit the big time in terms of mainstream success and has remained a relatively unknown figure. Since her style isn't the type that radio tends to shove down our throats, I don't find it hard to see why this is the case. And it's a shame, since there'll definitely be a ton of people who are missing out on some intriguing sounds and charming lyrics. Going on record, Murphy has stated that the album was inspired by her husband, Italian producer Sebastian Properzi, and throughout the album the theme of love is very prominent. Whether it's on an emotional or physical plane, there's a sense of intimacy Murphy shares with the listener that makes for a deeply personal and at times hilarious listen. The opening track, Mastermind, is this amusing, sarcastic track where Roisin seems to be mulling over her thoughts and feelings at the time when she took the plunge and accepted her husband's proposal, listing off things like recognising that she'll never be with another man again, the anticipation of the future, and what's in hold for her and her man. The notion of I'm fucked if I do and I'm fucked if I don't. There's a definite self-awareness that makes the song an entertaining listen. Admiration is abound on the track Lip Service, where Murphy is in such unadulterated love that she willingly proclaims her thoughts and feelings about her man to the entire world, admitting that she could go on forever about how she feels, also playing somewhat mischievously with the term as a potential sexual connotation in the chorus. 10 Miles High sees Murphy use this unusual combination of her recognised love of architecture and altitude as a metaphor for her and her husband, defying all limits that are thrown their way, and the sensation of feeling high being in the company of her man. And the track Sitting and Counting sees Murphy realising the culmination of what she has, sitting beside her man, watching the waves roll and praising her luck in finding someone. The album isn't afraid to go down a drearier route as well, Murphy doing a service to highlight that despite the rapturous time she experiences, there are moments where the relationship does falter. Thoughts Wasted sees Murphy's man in such a wasted state that she can't help but despair at his disposition, despondent over the idea that he seems to be unwilling to open up and display his emotions for her. She chooses to wait out the situation and waits for the guy to sober up. Near the end of the track, she recognises that this is a human trait, humorously summarising with the lines "humans are fucked" and "so complex even the most simple of us." And Nervous Sleep, where Murphy uses the imagery of a car breaking down and faltering on a mountainous drive and comparing that to the doubt and uncertainty she has about whether or not her fella loves her. The aspect of uncertainty and reassurance is also covered on the track Romantic Comedy. Instrumentally, everything is centrally rooted in the electropop genre, complete with a myriad of electronic drum beats, synths and sound effects that comes off as an alternative style of disco. There's not much in the way of bombastic sounds or fast-paced rhythms, but instead we get a slew of controlled and pleasant instrumentals that are almost ambient in presentation, but don't go down a route where everything is slowed down to within an inch of its life and contains no personality. Mastermind has a great mixture of glitchy pop with deep synths, Pretty Gardens with its staccato heavy synth strings, xylophone, bassline and heavy bass synths, and with its almost jazz-like vocal delivery from Murphy, and an all-round humorous track about her man loving her asymmetrical body, one she readily admits to having. I put it down as my favourite track on the whole album. Thoughts Wasted, where Murphy sounds like she's channeling her inner Tina Turner, has an addictive scattered beat with intermittent bass drops, hi-hats and occasional piano keyboard riffs. 10 Miles High, with its continuous keyboard chords with brief spurts of synth melody, bass synth line and sparse drum piece, and a similar story is found on Romantic Comedy, only minus the drums and a more noticeable inclusion of piano. There are a few moments on the album that don't exactly settle with me entirely. Nervous Sleep, whilst ambitious and ambient at almost 8 minutes in length, the longest song on the entire album, the lyrical simplicity and rather turgid presentation does give the impression of a track dragging its heels slightly. Sitting and Counting really does miss the benefit of having a strong bass line to anchor the song properly, feeling rather incomplete and not exactly a satisfying conclusion to the album. And the track Whatever, which registers as the song I like the least, comes off as the most out of place track on the album, being carried by keyboard and piano, and when the added sound effects come in, the track sounds very off key, and overall the production is pitched way too high and comes off as awkward above everything else. Although I do feel the album can be a little inconsistent in sound, the production when mixed wrong can feel like some songs are pitched incorrectly, or some of the vocal deliveries can get lost in the music, and to be honest, I would have loved a little more sarcasm that was prevalent in the first track. There's something about this album that's really captivating. It's overflowing with charm, the alternative take on a disco style album is one of real intrigue, and Roisin Murphy's voice is incredibly beautiful beautiful and rich. This kind of album has the same aura that the new Bat for Lashes album had, an irresistible nature to it that I can easily see growing on me within the year. Overall, I scored this album a 75 out of 100.